Hey, this is Mike for KickstartPoker.com, and this hand was taken from a low-stakes 6-max Hyper Turbo, and is a good illustration of how to get maximum value from garbage hands on favorable flops. So it folds around to the small blind who limps in. The blinds are 60, 120, and we both have a very short stack. I have around 5 big blinds behind, and Villain is very short as well. Looking at his HUD stats, we see that he plays 29% of hands, raises 13% of them, and he has a reasonably high aggression factor of 4.0. So this is a tight aggressive opponent, nothing out of the ordinary, no extreme stats or anything. So we go to the flop, which is Jack 9-9, and a Villain checks to us. In spots like this, you have to think about, first of all, your showdown value. Our showdown value here is almost nothing with a 7-deuce offsuit, so if it would get checked down to the river, we will very rarely have the best hand. So that means if we don't have any showdown value, if we want to have any shot at winning the pot here, we will have to bluff at some point. Secondly, the board texture is something to consider as well. It is very dry in this case. It is, first of all, a paired flop. There are 2 9s out there, and paired flops significantly reduce the chances that your opponent has something on the flop, because in this case there are only 2 9s and 3 jacks left in the deck to hit this flop. Whereas if you have a flop with 3 cards of a different rank, there would still be 9 cards left in the deck to hit that flop. So, mathematically speaking, paired flops are pretty favorable in the sense that your opponent has less of a chance to hit that flop. Second of all, it is a rainbow flop, meaning that all cards are of a different suit. So there are no immediate flush draws out there. There are some straight draws, open-enders, and gut shots. But overall, this flop is pretty dry. Thirdly, we have to look at our opponent tendencies. Villain is pretty aggressive, but he's also pretty tight. He doesn't have any crazy stats or anything, so there's a good chance that a bluff will take down the pot. Don't do this versus a calling station who's going to call with pretty much whatever he has here. But in this case, I think there's a reasonable chance that a bluff will be successful. We're betting 120 into 288, so that's less than half the pot. There's definitely no need to bet large here. With small stack-to-pot ratios and hyper turbos, even small bets still do the job as they force opponents to make decisions for a large chunk of their stack. If we bet 120, we basically force our opponent to make a decision here if he wants to play for his entire stack, because we only have 500 behind, so he should really feel at this point that he should either check raise us all in, or that he should fold. So he now has to make a decision for almost his entire stack, and so we don't have to bet any more than 120. We can maybe even go a little less, like 90 or 100 here, because it will basically do the same job as a bigger bet, and it will save us some chips if he actually has a hand or if he decides to come back over the top. In hyper turbos, you need to think about profitable spots every single time. Suppose that effective stacks would be much deeper here, like 25 big blinds or more. In that case, you could also decide to just check back here and see what develops on the turn, because there's no immediate pressure for you to really pick up that pot. But in a hyper turbo, you're under constant pressure to accumulate chips, so you have to consider every spot where you can potentially get some chips, even with very marginal hands like 7-deuce offsuit. If there is a good bluffing opportunity, you have to take it. Hyper turbos force you to take the maximum EV line for each and every hand, even when your edge is really small in the hand. So if you believe that you have any fold equity for a bluff, you should often go for it in a hyper turbo when the stack to pot ratio is very small. Alright, that was it for this hand. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, or visit my site kickstartpoker.com.